Hello YouTube, Goddard Radio Mosky here again with another beer review for you, as is usual. For this one we're going to go back to Brewdog. Obviously I like these guys because they were from very, very close to where I used to study at Aberdeen University. They're from a little village called Ellon, which is just to the north, and originally Fraserburgh before that. But it's a very cool time of year for Brewdog because they've just released the 2014 edition of their Mashtag beer, and of course this is the one that you can go on, that they were letting you go on Twitter and actually vote for the different components of the beer. So very, very cool in that respect. So this is Mashtag 2014, which is an Imperial Red Ale coming in at 9%. The 2013 edition was actually a really nice American brown ale, so hopefully this one kind of lives up to the hype that was created by that beer as well. So as is usual with my beer reviews then, I'll take you through a brief history of the Brewdog Brewery. It will be quite short because I've done a number of the Brewdog beers for you before, so I'll shorten it down just a little bit. And but as always, if you are simply just interested in the tasting of this beer, then feel free to go on towards the latter part of the video where you will catch that particular segment. And as always, the Brewdog website is in the video description along with the link to my other Brewdog beer reviews. So anyway, Brewdog were founded back in 2007 by James Watt and Martin Dickey on a £30,000 bank loan, and their first brewing facility was actually at the Keswick Industrial Estate in Fraserburgh in the very northeast corner of Scotland. And they only just recently moved away from there as well, or moved everything away from there. They moved to a new purpose-built facility in Ellon, I believe, just at the end of 2012 actually. So they're all of their brewing now is in their purpose-built facility in Ellon, which is very, very cool actually. So just to tell you a little bit more about this brewery, in fact, they're known for being very, very experimental, if you like. You know, any style of beer you can think of, they will have done it at some point in their history, and they're very well known for having a few different series of beer as well. You know, you've got the Unleash the Yeast series, and you also have the IPA's Dead series, which they release every year as well. So they've just released the IPA's Dead 2014, so I'll review some of those for you soon, and the Unleash the Year series will come out again later in this year, so that one should be very, very interesting when it comes out. They're also very well known for having brewed a number of strong beers as well. This includes their 18.2% Tokyo Star. That's an Imperial Stout, and that's one of their core range beers actually. They got in trouble from the Scottish media for brewing such a strong beer when Scotland has a lot of binge drinking culture, but you know, they didn't care, they just kept on brewing it anyway. But they're very well known for these strong beers. You'll probably have heard of the Tactical Nuclear Penguin, the Sink the Bismarck, and also the End of History. Very, very strong beers that were produced to sort of take the title of World's Strongest Beer. They were competing with Schwarzbräu in Germany for a number of years for that, and I believe they did actually hold it 3 times. But more recently, if you like, they started to open up their brew pubs. The first one opened in Aberdeen in 2010, then in 2011 they opened up new ones in Edinburgh and Glasgow, and also their first site outside of Scotland in Camden in London as well there. So that's their oldest brew pub outside of Scotland, and they've got a number of these all over the place now actually. There's many, many sites in England and also a couple in Sweden too. But the one thing that's really cool about this brewery, as I've mentioned to you in a few reviews before, is that they really listen to their fans. As I say, this beer was actually, they let the fans vote for it and they brewed it on Twitter, but they also have their Equity for Punks program, which is where you can actually buy into the brewery in exchange for like constant discounts throughout the shops. You can become a shareholder in Brewdog, and I believe they've done 3 different rounds of this shareholding, and one, I think it was the second round that they actually allowed them to build this brand new facility that they've got at Ellon, and they did a 3rd round of shareholding intake recently, which will allow them to expand this facility further. But to tell you a little bit more about the more recent events at the brewery, they're actually planning to open up some new international sites for their brew pubs. This includes Berlin, Rome and Firenze. Firenze will actually open up quite soon. They've all been confirmed, and they're also looking into new sites in Brussels, Paris and Barcelona, as well as a number of US states as well. And they've also just opened up new pubs. These ones have officially opened now in Roppongi in Tokyo in Japan, and also Sao Paulo in Brazil. And they've opened up new ones in Dundee, Cardiff, Liverpool in Britain of course, and also Gothenburg in Sweden too. And they've also very recently launched their first bottle shop in London called Brewdog, and they very recently, as I mentioned to you earlier, said farewell to their original brewing facility in Fraserburgh in Scotland. But let's get on to the actual talking about this beer now. I'll bring up the camera and just let you have a little look at the bottle art for this one. It was actually the fans that got to design the bottle art for this one here as well, which is really cool. So I'll just wipe the condensation off it so you can get a better look at it. But as you can see, you've got the typical sort of hashtag on this one. This, I believe that was on the old bottle as well, which was really cool. But the fans got to design the artwork for this one, and it came out very, very nicely, if you like. You can see the Brewdog shield behind this one here. This guy has a red dog with a white background. They've got the few regular caps there on the Brewdog beers. But just to read the blurb for this one here. This guy, it says, Mashtag 2014, a beer for the people, by the people. For the second year running, we temporarily expanded our brew team from a ramshackle team of experts in Aberdeen to a global force for beery good. Over the course of 1 week, it was you who scripted the recipe for our latest beer, and the result is magnificent. I doff my cap to you. As decided by greater than 40,000 votes, Mashtag 2014 is an Imperial Red Ale with global hops and a twist of citrus peel and blood orange. Nothing tastes more like democracy than Mashtag, so take a sip and see what your creation feels like. Sorry about that. But yeah, it just says it also says here, at Brewdog we brew uncompromising, bold and irrelevant beer with a soul and purpose. Our approach has the same contempt of the mass beer market that the old school punks had for pop culture. Brewdog is a modern day rebellion against faceless corporate bureaucracy and the bland soulless beer that the industry produce. Ditch the mainstream and say hello to Brewdog. And it says on this guy as well, best before August 2015, and this guy was bottled apparently on the 27th of May 2015, so a very, very new beer. In fact, only about 2 or 3 weeks old, this guy. So just to tell you exactly what ingredients went into this one, as I read it out there, I took down the hop profile in my notes of this guy. So as I mentioned to you, all components of this beer were voted for, and this included the label. But the order of voting for this one went, people voted first for a red ale, then for a second for a 9% Imperial Red Ale, then third for global hops, and then number 4 voting was for a twist of blood orange, orange peel and lemon peel. The hops in this guy are Amarillo from America, Motueka from New Zealand, and also Mittelfrüh, Middle Spring hops from Germany. And the malt base on this one includes extra pale, Cara, crystal, dark crystal and black malts. So let's get this guy out and get on with the tasting here. I'm looking forward to this guy. It sounds like it's got a really, really nice blend of different malts and hops here, so really looking forward to this guy. So let's get it out and get on with the tasting. As you can see, a nice little smoky opening on there, and as I mentioned before, a 9% Imperial Red Ale. You can really smell the nice hops coming out of this guy as you get it poured here. Really a lot of fruit coming off this guy. We'll just sugar up the last little bit. Just get any sediment out. And we'll set it back down. And there you are. So as you can see, a really nice, it's very ruby coloured beer actually. Just shift the light out the way. You can see it's very, very kind of dark mahogany ruby. If I hold this up to the light, it is actually quite clear. It's very, very red. I'll just move my light over here, turn it on and let you see this a little bit better. You can see if I bring the light just down here, very, very ruby. It's not coming out very well, in fact, actually. It's not showing up very well on the camera. You can see it on my finger actually. Just it's a very, very kind of nice, really ruby red colour. Quite a nice mahogany ruby colour there on the beer. You can see there was about a finger worth of white, of kind of off-white frothy head there, but it's kind of gone down quite a bit now. But a really attractive looking beer actually. Not that much carbonation going up to the top there, so I expect this beer to be kind of pretty smooth on that count, but it looks really, really nice actually. So let's give it a whiff and see how we get on here. Very, very fruity as you would expect actually with a red ale. The hops, as you always expect with Brewdog, they're a very kind of hop-headed brewery, if you like. So you're picking up a lot of kind of, there's a nice underlying of sort of bready and caramel malt, but the main component of this guy definitely is the fruits. It smells very, very fresh, if you like. But there's a lot of citrus in there, as you would expect. You're getting some nice orange and lemons in there. It smells very, very fresh. You can pick up the sharpness. In some of the beers you find it a little bit difficult with the aroma to notice the difference between the grapefruit and the citrus fruits, if you like. But this guy, you can get the sharpness of the orange peel and lemons here quite easily. There's maybe just a little underlying of earthy character to it as well, but you have to sort of sniff it in very, very deep to get that. But a very, very fresh and fruity smelling beer. It smells excellent, it really does. Really, really beautiful beer. But let's give it a taste and see how we get on here. As I said, a 9% Imperial Red Ale. That is, yeah, Really, really beautiful beer. Quite strong flavoured is my first impression of this guy. Yeah, the caramel malt is coming out a lot more in the flavour than it does on the aroma. There's a big underlying of that in this beer. Yeah, it definitely has a nice sort of bready-ish caramel note in there. The caramel isn't all that sweet. It's nowhere near as sweet as the caramel that you'll get in the 5am Saint beer. It's more of a sort of blended bready caramel. It's very, very well done actually for the strength of the beer. On the finish as well, it's actually only slightly bitter. The fruit's coming out just nicely, but it's nowhere near as kind of sharp as some of the IPAs that Brewdog produce. It actually is a little bit more reminiscent of the hardcore IPA, if you like. It seems as if it's almost brewed in the same kind of style as that, but obviously it's a very different style of beer. It's brewed with the same sort of feel, if you like. But yeah, in terms of the flavour, you're opening up with that nice sort of dark bready caramel in there. Very, very nicely done. I think there is a little hint of earthy character to this guy as well, but in the end you're getting a lot of that kind of citricy fruit in there. I think there's a little bit of pine resin in here as well, which is making it sort of taste just a little bit darker. It's not making the hops kind of too fruity, if you like. There's just a nice kind of underlying hint of this hops, if you like. They're not as prominent as some Brewdog beers. But yeah, it's very, very nicely done. On the edge of the tongue, you're just getting that nice, fresh, kind of citricy fruitiness, and on the middle of the tongue, you're getting just that little bit of pine resin mixing with the kind of earthy. That's mixing quite well with the earthy character of the beer, and you're also getting that nice little hint of kind of bready caramel in there too. But yeah, it's a really, really beautiful beer. I do have to say that. It's quite complex as well. The flavours in this guy, none of them are too prominent. They all blend together, but they blend very, very well. So if you get this guy, definitely just take a little bit of time and just sit and think about the taste of it. This guy is definitely a tasting beer. It's not a sessionable one, but it's not intended to be. It's one for enjoyment. But yeah, it's absolutely beautifully done. In terms of the mouthfeel with this guy, it's quite light to mid-bodied. The carbonation, it's very lightly carbonated in fact. It's very, very smooth, slightly oily mouthfeel I would say. And there is just a little hint of alcohol warmth from it, but it actually helps add to the flavour. It really, like I was saying, to me this guy seems as if it's brewed with the same sort, to give the same sort of feel as the hardcore IPA. But yeah, it's a really, really beautiful beer, this guy, you know. It'll only be out for a short while, so if you get the chance, buy it up and give it a try. Really, really nice beer, really well done. As I said, just to kind of briefly sum it up, a really, really nice underlying subtle caramel element to it here, brewed in the same sort of feel as the hardcore IPA. You get the nice sort of fruity freshness just coming around the edge of your tongue there, and some nice earthy character mixing with a little flavour of pine resin, and you've got that nice caramel part to it as well. As I was saying, the flavours all kind of blend together very well in this one. There's nothing that's really more prominent than anything else. It's a very, very well blended beer, and I think they've done it really, really well. So if you get the chance, definitely give it a try. As I say, brewed in the same sort of feel as the hardcore IPA, and I think it's very, very well done. This is one of the best beers that I've tried from Brewdog in a wee while actually, so I really recommend that you try this guy. And it's another kind of result for the mash tag community, if you like. They've done very, very well to pick all these different styles to put into the beer, and I look forward to the 2015 edition of mash tag. But hopefully they keep the recipes for these guys, and they do a sort of flashback mash tag at some point, and they'll actually rebrew some of these things, because they are very good. And that's one of the things, that's actually one of the only down points of Brewdog, if you like, is that they produce some really, really good beers, but a lot of them are one-off beers that you'll never see again. So that's the only downside to Brewdog brewing in the style that they do so many different beers. But a beautiful brewery, as I say, and this is another beautiful example of beer from them. So anyway, I hope you found my ramblings on this beer quite informative, and I hope you've enjoyed this beer review. If you have, please consider subscribing to the channel, and as always, let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comments section if you have tried it. And as always, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. You've been watching Goddard Radio Moscow beer reviews from Scotland, and I'll catch you soon with another beer review. Many more Brewdog beer reviews to come in the future. Cheers.